r/AskReddit. What is the worst scariest thing that has woken you up? Actually just happened last week. Woke up to my dog growling and someone was shining a light into my window at 2 AM. I was super out of it and trying to process what was going on since the light was coming from someone in my fenced-in backyard. Then my dog barked loud and the person ran away. One important preface, at the time I lived alone, no roommates. One time I was taking a nap in my bedroom, happened to have a really horrible nightmare, and then woke up to some strange man standing in my bedroom shining a flashlight in my face while I laid in bed. Both of us freaked the duck out. It turned out he was the maintenance guy for the apartment complex I lived in, finally responding to a maintenance request I had put in like 6 months before. He thought the apartment was empty, then heard me thrashing around from the nightmare and went and looked into the dark bedroom, blackout curtains, with his flashlight to see what was making the noise. After both of us recovered from our near heart attacks, he was extremely apologetic, and he did finally fix my garbage disposal. But Jesus Christ, that was ducking terrifying for a few seconds. I've told this before, but my son has taken to sleepwalking. He used to just stand by the bed, silently, until I'd snap awake and see his silhouette looming over me. Now, he's taken to turning on the lights when he's sleepwalking. I woke up one night, and he was standing there, turning the lights on and off, completely zoned out. I get him back to bed, and I think, duck this, I'm sleeping downstairs for the rest of the night. Around 3 o'clock I wake up, all of the lights downstairs are on. My math teacher calling out my name 6+ times in a room of 20 other students and me slowly waking up while mumbling "Shh, be quiet," not realizing that the voice I was hearing wasn't, in fact, in a dream. Was woken at 3 AM by a drunk man trying to open the external door into my room. It's not something you expect to happen when you live out of town, surrounded by paddocks. Oh, and there was also the time I woke up to a possum on my side table. That wasn't pleasant for either party. Wake up, see possum. Possum sees you. You're both staring for what feels like an eternity, but it's actually like 2.5 seconds. You scream. The possum screams, and maybe poops. You run for the door. The possum runs into a window. You try to unlock the door. He's scratching at the window. My daughter was a sleepwalker. There is something so indescribably creepy about waking up to a 4-year-old standing at your bedside, just staring. She wouldn't make a sound. She'd let her stinky breath wake me up. Then once I recovered from the shock of her being there, she'd speak in tongues because she wasn't really awake. I'd assure her she was asleep and escort her back to her room to be tucked in, never taking my eyes off her for fear her head would swivel around fully and she'd laugh maniacally at me. Scared the piss out of me every time. My buddy and I were camping and saw a bear, so we decided to sleep in his car. I was still worried about the bear, so it took forever to fall asleep. Well, right after I fell asleep, I woke up to screams and something grabbing my face. I immediately started crying, knowing that a bear was about to rip my face off. Then I realized it was my friend having a night terror. I was livid. A few years back I hear a thud in the hallway and my 4-year-old daughter screaming in pain. She had fallen and gotten a small but deep cut just above her left eyebrow. When I got out to the hallway, her face, hands and pajamas were covered in blood and she was holding her hands against her face. I thought she lost her eye. A quick trip to the ER for a couple of stitches and she was right as rain, but I gained almost all of my grey hair that night. Anyone here have one of those robotic vacuums? When the power goes out, those duckers start wandering around lost, bumping into it. Absolutely terrifying thing to be woken up by at 3 in the morning. My 2-year-old standing over me with a kitchen knife. He wanted sliced apples at 4 o'clock in the morning and somehow managed to climb up on table and pull out a knife. Now we keep them in the cupboard. Adoreju. Wake up. I think the house is on fire. Turned out it was the downstairs neighbor burning his wife's car up. Edit. 1. I was 8. The downstairs neighbors were the sort of white trash that make the people on Shameless look like punks. I still don't for sure know why he burned his wife's car up, but he did a thorough job of it. The thing was a burned out frame that looked like the aftermath of those "Don't Drink and Drive" posters. I do know the insurance company ruled it was arson. Apartment on fire. Actually, this week is the 5th anniversary. In January of this year, a car ran into my bedroom at 1 AM. Those asking for more info, basically I had just gotten home from visiting my parents and I went to bed around 12:30 am. At 1:04 am a car ran into my bedroom connected half bathroom. My bathroom is about 3 feet squared, so that was completely destroyed and the car was partially in my room also. My roommate and I went outside after calling 911 to search for the driver. Thankfully he was okay. He was laying on the ground about 20 feet away from a car. He had empty beer cans in his car and pill bottles. He told us he was 25 but we soon found out from police he was 19. This whole situation has been a mess because my landlord wanted to do all the repairs himself. I just moved back into my room last week and had been living in the living room for the past 2 months. I'm glad to finally have a bedroom again, but sleeping in that room still makes me nervous at night. I still can't use my bathroom after 10 PM because it makes me nervous. It'll be fine eventually. I just need to get used to it. My girlfriend's mother telling me there were 2 police officers and my mother at the front door. It was 4 AM and I was sleeping at the girlfriend's house. They had come to inform me my dad had died. That was around 14 years ago. I'm afraid to say that I don't think this sort of wake up won't happen again. In grad school, my roommate standing directly over me, staring down at me. She couldn't decide if she should wake me up or not. She kept hearing this deep voice mumbling at inconsistent intervals and was torn between there's someone in the house and I'm finally actually losing my mind. She was studying psych at the time. We finally figured out that it was the smoke detector wanting new batteries, but holy hell, she scared me. I was maybe 5 years old. Woke up to someone banging on the back door followed by gunshots as they entered the house. It was my ex-stepdad. He'd come to try to kill my mother. Thank God he was unsuccessful. Edit, she had been having a bad feeling for a few weeks and that kept getting worse and worse. They were so bad the day of that she asked a real close male friend if he would crash on the couch that night. Psycho ex comes in. Gunshots. Male friend shot in the leg. Ex then proceeds to bite off male friend's ear, all while mom is beating the guy with a kitchen chair. I honestly don't know what made him give up and leave. Maybe the hurt back and bleeding head from said chair. 30 years later I realize I never asked that question. Anyway, all this happened while I was hiding under covers in my bed 1 room away. Edit number 2 just called mom to ask cause I was really curious. She said he was stumbling around out of it from the chair, hitting him over and over in the head, so when he was close enough to the front door she shoved him out of it and locked it. Then of course called 911. The sound of a fox doing his mating call. It sounded like a woman screaming, and it was right outside my window. A 6.0 earthquake at 3 o'clock in the morning. Probably the most helpless I have ever felt. I expected my ceiling fan to fall on me. When you're lying in bed with no protection nearby, you basically just have to hold on and hope everything is alright. Woke up by my dad, blind, to check if my mom is okay, last stage cancer, and nope, she passed away. It was 13 years ago. The sound of my stepfather screaming, get the duck out of our house. I'm in bed thinking that a person is in here, but turns out it was our neighbor's dog. LOL. That night there was a storm and it knocked over one of their trees onto our fence, so their dog came into our backyard and into our house through a doggy door. A spider landing on my face. In retrospect, the little guy was probably as terrified as I was. Think it had accidentally fallen somehow, but goddamn it was scary. Fell asleep on my arm once when I was 13. Woke up because I couldn't feel it, and in the dark of my room, illuminated only by faint moonlight, I saw an arm on my pillow. It was my arm of course, but since I had zero feeling of it I freaked out for like 30 seconds because I thought it had fallen off in the middle of the night. I calmed down and then I jerked off with it. One time my son woke me in the middle of the night, crawling into my bed and telling me a man was bothering him. I usually try to go banish the monsters in his room so he can go back to sleep in there. So I went and admonished the air, leave my son alone. This isn't your place. This time my son wanted to stay in my room and not go back to his own bed. So I made room for him and moved over to the edge of my bed and fell back asleep. About 30 minutes later, I had a frightening lucid dream that this tall, shrouded man was at the side of my bed and started jabbing at my side, telling me that I interrupted his fun, and now he was going to bother me. I couldn't move and I just had to put up with it until I was able to get my dream life willpower to focus and let me move out. A few years back I saw this dingo pup at a pound, on death row. I have a large property so decided to save her. She was a wonderful thing, but had a lot of wild in her. She could never be tamed. She never came into the house. She also never made a sound the whole time I had her. She would only come near us in her terms. The thing that kept her with us was she absolutely loved our dog. Eventually she fell pregnant. Luckily she had the pups under one of our buildings, making a den. Dingo pups grow quicker than dog pups, and we didn't want a whole pack so we found them all good homes. But one pup couldn't be taken on the same day as the others. I feared she run off into the wild with the pup so I decided to take it into my room to sleep the night. That night I woke up with the dingo on my chest. They are surprisingly light. She was looking down at me with cold dead eyes. She had snuck into my room and opened my door. Dingoes have human-like wrists and can turn doorknobs. She stood there for half a minute, then quietly left the room. I think she was sending a message. I think that message was confirmed when I got up in the morning and she had left a dead wallaby on the hood of my car.